Ms Mackay, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Today is a historic day in the Chamber as we debate the general principles of the Stage 1 Domestic Abuse Scotland Bill. It's historic because this bill for the first time introduces psychological abuse into the repugnant crime of domestic abuse. It has two main purposes. It creates a new offence of engaging in a course of abusive conduct against a partner or ex-partner, and it amends other procedural or evidential aspects of criminal law in relation to domestic abuse. In other words, it recognises the damage that psychological abuse can do and makes it a crime in its own right. It addresses a gap in criminal law, allowing for convictions of domestic abuse based on a course of conduct that includes psychological abuse rather than individual incidents. Because we all know that psychological and emotional abuse is just as painful as physical abuse. You might not see the bruises, but controlling and coercive behaviour eats away at the soul and self-esteem of the victim each and every day. The evidence the committee has heard was heartbreaking at all times, and I thank the witnesses for their immense bravery in telling us their stories so that others will not suffer the way they did. Domestic violence, physical or psychological, exists in all sections of our communities across all levels of society. As we've heard, mental and emotional abuse includes threats, criticism of appearance and intellect, name-calling, controlling what you do, your access to money, where you go, how you dress and who you speak to, among many other degrading control mechanisms. And the cowardly abuser knows no bounds. They'll threaten your children, isolate you from family and friends, in effect try to make you a non-person. It's all about control and controlling by fear. This bill aims to tackle all forms of this vile crime, and it's been welcomed by a wide variety of organisations, as we've heard, such as Scottish Women's Aid, the Law Society of Scotland, Children First and the NSPCC, to name but a few. Presiding Officer, children are the forgotten victims of domestic violence. The ways in which children can be harmed by domestic abuse are wider than simply witnessing the abuse itself. The trauma is long-lasting and far-reaching. That's why I'm delighted that this bill provides for a statutory aggravator for instances of partner abuse in which a third party, usually children, are involved. The aggravator wasn't part of the Scottish Government's initial consultation on the bill, but as we listened to stakeholders, children's charities and women's groups, it was clear there was a need for the children to be recognised as major victims of this crime. However, as we've heard, there's a view among children's organisations that abuse of children in domestic violence cases should be recognised in its own right. And I have to say I have sympathy with this. The Government believes that the bill strikes the right balance and that any major reform of the criminal law on the abuse of children is best considered separately, and it's currently under review. I sincerely hope that this will reflect the urgent need for recognising the devastating effect domestic violence can have on children. Another welcome measure is that the bill requires the court to consider whether to impose a non-harassment order to protect the victim. The Scottish Women's Aid believe it's critical that NHOs cover children too, and that courts should be more willing to consider refusing contact to abusive parents. I agree with that too, and I'm pleased that the Cabinet Secretary is considering it. I'm also pleased that emergency barring orders are being considered and that the Cabinet Secretary will enter into a dialogue with third sector organisations for consideration of this measure at stage 2 of this bill. Presiding Officer, there's not enough time to do justice to all aspects of this important bill. I agree with Kezia Dugdale, it's just far too short. But I hope that between us across the Chamber we've covered most of the salient points. The bill aims to expose the inadequate bullies who perpetrate controlling and coercive behaviour and send a message to them that it will not be tolerated any longer. For that reason, I'm proud to recommend the general principles of the Stage 1 Domestic Abuse Scotland Bill to the Chamber.
Thank you. As I said, there is some time in hand, so you can